Okay, so this week we read about the birth of Yitzchak and how the scoffers, the generation, were saying that she couldn't possibly be Avram's child. It must be that the father of Yitzchak was actually Avimelech, who abducted Sarah, and that's why the Torah repeats in the beginning of this Torah portion twice and says, Yitzchak is the son of Abraham. Avram bore Yitzchak. So the reason for the double expression is in order to highlight that the scoffers of the generation are wrong and that Yitzchak indeed is the son of Abraham. So there's in everything in Torah, there's a body and there's a soul. So on the surface, the way that Hashem prevented this the scoffers generation, the way he silenced them, was by making Yitzchak's face look like Avram's face. Since he was identical to his father, it was obviously that he was a child of Abraham. But there's also a deeper meaning to the story. There is a time when a Jewish child could, God forbid, be taken away from his parents and his tradition, and the winds of the time, the winds of Avimelech, the winds of the assimilation, could cause a Jew to be disenfranchised, disenchanted, not interested in his or her heritage. There's something that God does that protects us and allows us to overcome the vicissitudes and trials that each of us experiences. What does Hashem do? Hashem takes Yitzchak, makes Yitzchak look like Abraham. What does that mean spiritually? So Yitzchak spiritually represents the inner dimension of Torah, and Avram represents the revealed parts of Torah. Why is that? Because Avram's path of service of Hashem was with kindness. Kindness comes, as it says in Tanya, from love. Love is the cause of kindness and the inner dimension of kindness. So kindness, Kabbalistically, is a divine flow that goes from above to below. Just like when you're bestowing kindness upon someone, they're in need of your help, and you give them something. Similarly, besides the love being the cause of kindness, but also revelation is associated with kindness. So God gives us a revelation of something. That's chesed. That's kindness. The different kinds of revelation. So revelation of the revealed parts of Torah is compared to water. It's a revelation which flows into this world and descends and becomes something that we can relate to in a very down-to-earth way. The revealed parts of Torah discusses all kinds of earthy things and even discusses lying and cheating and stealing and damaging. It's a part of Torah which is very, which flows really down, all the way down to the physical world, where our human mind can grasp and understand and integrate with it. It's fully, we're fully there with the real parts of Torah. The inner dimension of Torah is compared to Yitzchak. It's compared to fire. Yitzchak's service of Hashem was different. Yitzchak's service of Hashem was about ascending from below to above. His service of Hashem was not about kindness and revelation. His service of Hashem was an opposite trajectory about avoda, about yearning to be closer to Hashem and going upwards. Not about revelation, but about something about like fire. Fire is like it says about the Levites. The Levites are blessed in an extra measure of Gevura, an extra measure of Yitzchak. And that's why they sing in the temple. Their singing represents their yearning to be closer to Hashem. So they sing the song, and they're feeling distant, because they're feeling Gevura, they're feeling concealment. Because they're feeling concealment, they're also you need to Levi present. Hey, you want to put on the sound for the Zoom? Because we're doing a Zoom class right now, so it's great to have nice background music. So, speaking of Levi Gvura, right, Zev? Anyways, so there is the concealment of godliness is what produces the song, and the actual song, the actual yearning is also Gvura. Gvura means power, it means force. When things are flowing naturally, you don't need to use force. You need force when going against the grain. So the Levite who is yearning to be closer to Hashem and ignoring the physical things around them and trying to be closer, that's an act of Gvura. That's what fire does. Fire ascends upwards. Fire is about Gvura. Fire is about leaving the here and now and going closer to Hashem. So fire therefore represents the inner dimension of Torah, which has always been hidden, has always been concealed. It's a part of Torah, which yes, it's God's wisdom, but as the world never deserved it, the world never needed it, and therefore it was kept close, so to speak, to the bosom of the divine, and it was never revealed. But when there came a time when a Jewish child could be torn away from Abraham, when it's possible for there to be something that could cause a Jewish child to be disenchanted with Judaism. So what does God do? God takes his Yitzchak and turns it into Abraham. God takes this part of the Torah, which is usually hidden and concealed, and God takes it and he reveals it in a way that everyone can understand. That's what happened in this month, the month of Kislev. That's why we read the Parshat Toldot in the month of Kislev always, where the Shabbos of blesses. The month of Kislev, what's unique about this month of Kislev is that just like God gave us to reveal parts of Torah in the third month of the year from Passover, which is called the beginning of the year, because that was when God redeemed us from Egypt, so too the third month of the year, starting from creation, is the month of Kislev, and that's when God gave us the inner dimension of Torah, with the holiday of the 19th of Kislev and the 10th of Kislev. So the revelation of godliness in in the world that happened through the Alter Rebbe and the Mittler Rebbe and the other holidays, Chassidic holidays in this month, are all about this theme. That's why the word Kislev also has that connotation of revelation. Kislev has two parts: Kaf Samach, which means hidden, and Lamed Vav, which is numerically equivalent to the word Elu, which means these. Something you can point out with your finger and say, this is what it is. So in the month of Kislev, Hashem takes the part of Torah, which is usually Kes, which is usually hidden, and he takes that part of Torah and causes it to be Lev, and causes it to be Elah, causes it to be something which is open and clear in a way that you can experience, where you can relate to, in a way that could allow you to overcome your surroundings, overcome whatever it is that's pulling you away from your heritage. On that note, I want to focus on something specific in this week's Torah portion. It's a teaching from Chassidic masters. I'm not sure the original origin of this, but I think it's very relevant to all of us. Referring to the discussion this week about the digging of the wells. Torah says that Yitzchak dug wells, but whatever he dug was covered by Avimelech, covered by the Philistines. They took the same wells of Yitzchak, the wells of Isaac, and they covered them. They put mud and dirt and stones, and these wells were no longer usable. So the purpose of the Torah telling us this again is not just a story, but there's a body and there's a soul. What's the soul of the story? What's the soul of the story? Soul of the story is that there's a tzaddik, and the tzaddik looks at the Jew, and the Jew has inside of him a soul, but the soul could be covered with all kinds of stuff, and the soul's not revealed. And what the tzaddik tries to do is to take away all this dust and stuff that's covering up the neshama, covering up the soul, and to reveal the goodness that's there. So the operative word the Torah uses regarding the Philistines covering up the well of Yitzchak is sismum. Sismum literally means to cover, but the root of the word sismum, person from being in touch with Abraham, being in touch with his inner soul, is him looking at him herself as stam, as plain, as ordinary. Because if you're ordinary, it doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you're plain, you're ordinary. Doesn't matter if you pray, doesn't matter if you get stuck, doesn't matter if you learn Torah, doesn't matter if you help in the house, doesn't matter if you take out the garbage, doesn't matter if you bring things into your life that don't belong there, that will derail you, that are dangerous for you. All that doesn't matter if you look at yourself and you say about yourself that you're just plain. So that's what unfortunately covers and conceals all the efforts of Avram. The wells that Abraham dug were covered by the Philistines. How they cover them? By telling the person that you're stam. So the unique contribution of the digging of the wells through Yitzchak means this: There's a song that we customarily sing before the month of Kislev, in the month of Kislev. It's a song about the Alter Rebbe's release. When the Alter Rebbe was informed that he was released from prison, he was reciting Psalms. And he was reciting chapter 55, the words, God redeem my soul in peace from those who war against me, because the many were with me. So as soon as Alter Rebbe was recited that verse, before he began the next verse, he was told he was freed. And because of that, we sing a song on that verse. And that verse encapsulates what the inner dimension of Torah does. What does it do? It allows us to be freed from those who war against us. Who are those who war against us? Those who war against us refer to the war, the inner war of the godly soul and the animal soul. And the method of the teachings of the study of Chassidus allows us to be freed in peace from the animal soul. How so? How does the teachings of Chassidus, what does it do? How is that the crucible of oil that allows us to be freed in peace? What is it? What is it in Chassidus that gives us this? And how do we access it? We all learn in Chassidus, but do we all know how to access that? What is that ingredient? And especially the verse itself sounds like a contradiction. First it says you'll be redeemed in peace, then it says from those who war against you. If there's a war going on, there's no peace. But it says you'll be redeemed in peace for those who war against you. What does it mean? So very, very briefly, the Mittler Rebbe says that this verse, the many were with me, refers to the revelation of Yechida. I can get into why that verse means that, but that's what the verse is talking about. It's talking about the revelation of the Yechida. There are 5 parts of the soul. There's a part of the soul which gives us obedience to Hashem, nefesh, part of the soul which gives us love and reverence for Hashem, ruach. It's a part of the soul which allows us to appreciate the truth, that there's nothing besides Hashem, the oneness of Hashem, to understand that, neshama. Then there is chaya. Chaya is a desire to be close to Hashem beyond logic and reason. But chaya, just like the other first 3, have a parallel opposing force. Just like you could have obedience to Hashem, you could also have obedience to the street and try to copy what your neighbors are doing. Just like you could have love and reverence for Hashem, you could also have love and reverence for other things which are leave much to be desired. And just like you could have a deep understanding of Hashem's truth, you could also have a deep understanding of something which is heretical. And just like you could have chai, you could have a love for Hashem beyond logic and reason, there are other similar kinds of attractions and attachments that a person could have which are beyond the pale, which are crazy. Each part of the soul has a parallel. Let's use an example of someone who's infatuated with baseball, right? So they love baseball. If there's a ticket to a baseball game, they're going. Let's say they get a ticket to a basketball game, and it's the same night as a baseball game. So no question, they're going to choose baseball over basketball. But it doesn't mean that the basketball game doesn't interest them. It could be they would rather have the basketball game on a different night. That way, they would be able to go to the baseball game and the basketball game. It's their desire doesn't leave all the desires to become negligible. It doesn't relegate all of the desires to the oblivion of being absolutely zero. It causes them to be less interesting, but not zero. That's when the desire is not incomparable to the other desires. However, there is a kind of desire, or more than the desire, there's a kind of attachment that a Jew has to Hashem, which is the source of why we have always chosen to die rather than sever our bond with Hashem. And this is called Yechida. The part of our soul which is called Yechida is the reason why a Jew in the middle of the day decides to pray the Mincha prayer and put everything aside. Where does it come from? How does everything all of a sudden become irrelevant? Now it's time for Mincha, therefore but what about everything else? The reason why it all becomes irrelevant is because in the face of that kind of connection, everything is zero. There's no similar parallel kind of attachment that exists in the world. That's why the Chassidic masters explain things in verse 42. Rashi is trying to explain the thirst of the soul that King David talks about. And Rashi uses the words, Ein Lei Dimyan. There is no similar verse. Usually when Rashi tries to talk about similar verses, Rashi uses the words, Ein Lei Dimyan B'Mikra. There's no other verse in the Torah. But here Rashi uses the words, Ein Lei Dimyan. There is no similarity. Rashi is alluding to, the Chassidic masters explain that there's no similar kind of yearning. There's no similar kind of attachment that exists, like the attachment of a Jew to Hashem. So in the face of this kind of bond, there is no challenge. If the Yechida, if that part of the soul were to be revealed, if that part of the soul would be something that I would feel, then other things in my life would be absolutely irrelevant. However, the question is, how do you get there? How does that part of the soul become part of your consciousness? How does it become part? I mean, historically, when when various anti-Semites tried to kill us and they gave us the choice of dying or accepting their religion, we chose to die because the stakes forced that part of the soul to come to the fore. But on a regular Wednesday afternoon, how do you get in touch with that part of the soul? So the Mittler Rebbe explains that when you just think about the fact that you have that part of the soul, even though you don't necessarily, it's not animating you, it's not what you're thinking about. Your thoughts are engulfed with what the animal soul is thinking about. Your consciousness is all about earthy stuff. But just thinking about the fact that you have a part of yourself, that you're ready to die rather than sever your bond with Hashem, that even though you're not working in the IDF, but you would be that guy because that's who you are inside. You would be the guy who would give his life to protect the Jewish people, would give his life rather than sever your bond with Hashem. The Alter Rebbe writes in chapter 25 that every mitzvah connects you, every sin separates you. So if you're ready to give your life rather than sever your bond with Hashem, how much more so you're ready to give away your money, your health, whatever it may be, if that's something that stands in the path between you and your bond with Hashem. That's what this part of the soul feels, that nothing else matters. So even though I may not be able to experience it and feel it, but I can be powered by it, and it can guide my decisions just by thinking about it. And one of the keys to make this part of the soul more part of our lives is the inner dimension of Torah, which is called the Yechida of Torah, called the essence of Torah. So when a Jew studies the revealed parts of the Torah, the Zohar says, he connects the more exoteric, more the real parts of the soul with how the godly light that is contracted and limited to creation. However, when a Jew studies the inner dimension of Torah, and he studies the part of Torah which is called the Yechida, that allows his own Yechida to be revealed. Even though there is a challenge and there are things which he's concentrating on, and they do leave much to be desired, and he's not in a good state. Nevertheless, just by thinking and meditating about who you really are, that causes pada b'shalom nafshi, that causes you to be redeemed in peace from those challenges. By realizing who you are, thinking about it, you're not stam, you're not plain. And it does matter what you do. Because when you, as the Baal Shem Tov said, when a Jew says the word of Torah, God kisses the lips of a Jew who says the words of Torah. When a Jew prays, Hashem kisses the lips of a Jew who prays to Hashem. Just being conscious of how precious we are and how beloved we are and how majestic we are inside, that allows this to be revealed, and allows us to overcome the winds to try to take away us from Avram and throw us over to Avimelech. The main thing is that this revelation will be fully realized the coming Mashiach, when Hashem will give us deepest secrets of the Torah, we reveal to all in a way that is understood, to young and old. We see this happen immediately, mamish. Have a wonderful day. A good Suras Tevis.
Amen.